Wow. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin. Before we went on air, the last thing I said to Michael is wow. This is such a wow. I don't even know where to begin. By the way, first of all, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everybody. It's December 22nd. Even though you're going to be getting this on January 12th, Happy New Year. Christmas is past and stuff. There's so much to say. First of all, uh, um, I would tell everybody subscribe now. That's just how this stuff that I'm doing grows and grows and allows me to keep doing this kind of stuff. So subscribe. But I've done interviews and I've done interviews, and I'm now at 430 stuff, and I gotta say from deep within the filaments and elements and particles of my heart, I mean this. This time we're going to spend with Michael Forman is so major important beyond because he's the quintessential, essential networker. And as we've been discovering and talking, and as I have come to so believe, networking today is life and future and hope and necessity. And that's what Michael is all about. And I'm so grateful to the exigencies. It's a great word. I looked that up before we went on air. To the exigencies of the universe for putting us together. And it's funny. Last night I'm doing my due diligence and I'm reading up about Michael because he wrote this amazing book, which is available to everybody. Networking Unleashed, which I read last night. And it's michaelaforman.com and it's there. I can't, and we just talked for an hour, and I apologize for that because I had to jump all over you, Michael, with my journey and how networking has completely changed the course of my life. And I don't mind plugging somewhere. I don't mind plugging 10 Things I Learned from the Billionaire. It's a book 100% as a result of pure networking. And here we have a networking expert. And why is networking so important? Because AI is going to mess up the way the world has been, since Washington crossed the Delaware. Literally that long. It's been the world has been the same. Now it's not the same. And according to Calvin, every 15 minutes the world is changing dramatically. Not every 10 years, but every 15 minutes. And networking, ladies and gentlemen, is everything. And Michael is the quintessential networker. So, and that's how important it is. Kids graduating college today are going to need four jobs, careers, call it whatever you want. It's not one and done. It's in order to survive in this new world. And Michael, and what's going to help you survive and grow? Networking, networking. How many times do I have to say it? Networking. So, hey, my, I want to call this a Johnny Carson monologue, but it really wasn't funny. I try to be funny, but it's not funny. It's serious stuff. So anyway, my monologue is done. Michael, how about saying a couple of words, whatever you want to say? By the way, Michael also hugely important, and we talked about that too before we went on air. As a veteran of Desert Storm in 9 years in the Air Force, which impresses the hell out of me. It's amazing stuff, and we didn't even chat about a lot of Desert Storm stuff, but that's for another time. Anyway, Michael, I'm done. Take it away, a little intro, and we'll jump in.
Thank you, Calvin. Listen, it's great being here. Um, I I am the person to speak to about networking, but really I'm no expert because I'm learning every day. I'm learning every day on how to network a different way, and it's just as important 10 years ago as it is today. And I'll go into what I feel it's become, ever since the pandemic to what it is now. And it's just still, but it's very nice to be here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, I'm just so grateful because it's just like sometimes you get these revelations, and I know you're coming, and I started to prepare for this, and we've been last few weeks, but last night at midnight. the clock rang 12, boom, and I started looking and reading and taking notes and underlining. I do it the old-fashioned way. I underline things, and I'm saying to myself, my goodness, this is so, this is everything. And all the stuff that I know about AI and how AI is messing things up and changing, and there's some positivity there. And then it's like this great big incandescent light bulb goes off about you and what we're going to be doing. So, um, let's jump in. So you built a reputation around turning networking into like profitable skills and stuff, and it really is profitable skills. Um, what's the biggest misconception people have about networking? I mean, this is such an important question, and how do you correct it?
It's funny because usually they leave that question for the end. But I'm going to hit you with it now. Um, I went to the school of hard knocks, right? I learned how to do everything wrong before I knew how to do it correctly. And it was really a long road, but it was like I was hit with a lightning bolt. Because let's say you go to a networking event, everything all about networking. The first thing you do, the first thing that I did 4 lives ago was I walked in, I started talking about myself, talking about my product, handing out business cards. I was the talk of the town. I used to come back, I used to come back with a shoebox filled with business cards and say, "Look how good I did," when I didn't do well at all. It was the exact opposite of what you should be doing. So what I've learned is that when you first walk into that networking event, first of all, pick up one of those sheets to tell you where everything is, right? Because you can kind of like plot out where you want to go. Then there are tables set up and there are people networking right in front of you. So the first thing you do when you walk up to the table is you listen. You don't talk. You listen. You listen for the conversation because you first have to figure out, is this a conversation that I want to be a part of? No, it's not. I haven't said a word yet. So I'll politely bow out. I'll go to the next table and I'll do the same thing. But if it is, then I will wait for that conversation to come around to me and I'm going to say whatever I have to say. I better make it important because I'm supposedly the expert in my field. So I would wait and I would say the 2 sentences, 3 sentences, what I have to talk about. And my whole goal would be to have, let's say, two of those people turn to me and acknowledge and say something back to me. Then I start the second phase of what you have to do. But that to me, that's the first thing that everybody should learn to do is stop and listen. It's called active listening. Active listening. So you are listening, especially when you're speaking with somebody, you're listening to the person talk. You're not talking. Don't talk. You're not talking. So they're talking. And then when they finish, you pause. That pause is so important. That pause tells the other person that, all right, he was listening to me. Then you obviously say something back that he had said. And then you go on with your answer to what he said. You don't want to talk about the next thing that you want to talk about. You're talking about what he was talking about or she was talking about.
It's an art form.
It is an art form that you can be taught, but you have to practice like anything else. It's an art form. So you
Mhm.
have to practice in order to get good.
Wow. Um, I and again, I just have to interject that networking the proper way, in my own way, without knowing some of the finer tuning things that you're going to talk about, changed my whole life around. My modern contemporary life was changed 100% because of networking. Somebody saw me on LinkedIn, boom, 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 made a connection, told me to make a connection. And now I'm writing books with Kay Wagner. Powerful stuff, what you're talking about. So you teach that conversations can become revenue. Uh, can you walk us through like an example of how a simple interaction that can turn into like a major opportunity?
Well, it's funny because I always say that the meeting of the person is important, but not that important. It's the follow-up, right? You have to follow up correctly in order to gain anything. So not only is it what you have to say, but it's how you say it, when you say it, how many times you say it, all within the follow up. So, one of the many workshops that I do or coaching that I do, one of the CEOs of the company that I went and did a workshop for about 4 months ago, and they had put in everything that I said. They instituted everything that I said, and they increased their ROI by $25,000.
Well,
Okay, so all by now, they didn't change it. They didn't add any customers to what they were doing, but they changed the way they followed up, and that in itself brought up their ROI.
something that simple. Um, what are the core communication habits that separate like high performing networkers from people who don't do well, who kind of struggle? Do they have certain habits?
Well, yeah. Now, when you talk dealing with communication, you have communication with your peers, let's say inter-office, uh, inner office, and or you have communication with your networking clients or networking to be clients, right? So your communication is almost the same, but it differs just a little bit, right? The communication tactics, I'll say, um, is really goes along the same way. When you go to a networking event, you go in with what's called a servant's heart, right? You look to give before you receive. So that is one of the major communication things that you have to think about, right? You have to walk in and let's say I'm sitting down with Calvin and I'm going to hear Calvin speak about everything that he does. And after he finishes, and I pause, what do you think I'm going to say to him? I'm going to say, you know what, Calvin, I like what you do. I like how you're doing it. How can I make you more successful? How can I be a good referral source for you? And if I did my job correctly, Calvin would say to me, Michael, I don't even know what the hell you do yet. And you're trying to make me more successful? And the answer is yes.
Hmm. By the way, I don't know if you notice I'm maybe one of the few interviewers on Earth who's taking notes. I know Jimmy Fallon doesn't do that, and Jimmy Kimmel doesn't do that, but I'm taking notes on you. Uh, I'm writing stuff down. So if it looks like it's because I'm a note taker. When I was reading this, there was a I mean, this is great stuff, and I love the fact that people can just download it right away. There it is. Just go to, michaelaforman.com, download it. And I downloaded it right away. And of course, I read it and stuff. But there was something there that I extracted and I kind of liked. Um, uh, and I'm tying it into something that I learned. And I'm embarrassed to tell people where I learned this from. I'm really embarrassed. Uh, on New Year's Eve on Channel 11 here in New York, they have a marathonic. Watch where I go with this, Michael. They have a marathonic TV experience on Channel 11, The Honeymooners.
Sure.
Sure. and I have all 39 episodes back there. I bought the collection. But there was one show, and it still resonates with me. And I saw glimpses of that in here. I don't know if anybody ever asked you this, but so anyway, it's taking a long time to spit this out, but I've got to set it up the right way. So in this episode, uh, Ralph is talking to Ed Norton, Ralph Cramden, and Ralph says something along the lines, and it's really powerful stuff. And I actually wrote about it in my billionaire book. Be kind to the people you meet on the way up because you're going to meet the same people on the way down. At which time Ed Norton chimed in, "Yeah, that happens to me every day in the sewer." Um, so, can you take that, be kind to the people you meet on the way up, and you're going to meet the same people on the way down, and kind of translate that into some of the work you do?
Sure, because everybody starts kind of in the same place. And as you become a better networker, as you be getting introduced to more people and more powerful people, more people of importance, and you're getting to meet all these people, and then you're going to reach a plateau, right? Some people go down a little bit, some people continue to go up. But the people that go down a little bit, not for nothing that you've done, but just lost a little bit of headway, and you're going back down, and you're going to see some of those people that helped you get to your top point. And how did you treat them? I was raised where you treat everybody the same. I don't care what color you are, what religion you are, didn't make a difference. You treat everybody the same. In business, you treat everybody the same also. But you don't have to truly believe it, but as long as you are nice to the person and say you're nice or whatever the case may be, because you never know that one of these people can help you go even further, or they may be in trouble and you may be able to help them. So, and if you weren't good to them, you won't know that. You won't know if you're able to help them. And a lot of times it's through nothing that you really have to do, but you can either advise them, mentor them, help them. With it doesn't have to cost you anything, but it'll help you help them. And believe it or not, by you helping to help them, it'll make you better. It always makes you better.
Okay. I love that, and it's so, and I've subscribed to that for a long, long time, and it continually pays dividends and makes you better, as you just said. Powerful stuff. Um, you talk a lot about the institution of first impressions and energy and stuff. What does someone what does someone have to get right, like in the first 7 seconds they're meeting somebody? What are those most, and this is so important. I mean, what are those first 7 seconds like?
Well, okay. So let's say you and I are just talking for the very first time. We're within that first 7 seconds. First of all, first of all, take your cell phone and put it away, right? That's a distraction. So that's a number one distraction over any network. When I'm in a networking group or a workshop, that's the first thing I do. Tell them to turn off their cell phones, put it away, unless you're a doctor. When something like important is going to come through, put it away. Right. So you have that first 7 seconds. So what are the things that you have to be aware of yourself? Eye contact. You have to look at them straight in the eyes. Make them think that they are the only person in the room. I don't care who walks behind them or what else goes on. Don't let that distract you, right? You make them think that they are the most important person in the room. Body language. That's also very important. How about your shoulders? Are they square to the person or are they off? kill, right? Because a lot of that will, you can tell. If a person doesn't look at you and looks like into the sky away from you, if they hold, I talk about this all the time. You see in commercials, you see people hold their hands like this in front of them, about the middle waist, right? It's called middle steeple, right? And I say, you know what? Throw that out. Because listen, Jewish, Italian, doesn't make a difference. We talk with our hands. And you know what? I don't mean like, crazy Eddie, and talk about with it like, our prices are insane, right? But you talk with your hands. You emphasize with your hands. So you're doing all this within the first 7 seconds. But what have you done? You made them feel like they're the most important person in a room. You gave them your utmost attention. You're answering them with your hands, your eyes, and everything else. So no matter what they're saying, and you listen to them, right? You don't do half a conversation to the person to the left. You totally engage that person. And this sounds like a lot, but all of this happens in the first 7 to 10 seconds.
And that can set the whole pace for a whole relationship.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Interesting, interesting. Um, for like people, professionals, I know I was one of these a long time ago who feel like they're uncomfortable or they're introverted. I was a long time ago. Um, what's the easiest way to start building confidence when you're in a networking situation?
Okay. Well, listen, I was in the Air Force. So I call this having a wingman, right? You take, I always say go to a networking event by yourself, right? Because you don't want that type of distraction. But if you're introverted, go with a wingman, go with somebody who knows you, knows what you do, and knows everything so well that the two of you can walk up to a table. And when the conversation comes around, is this a conversation you want to be a part of? Yes, it is. And then what will happen now, the introvert will just like kind of shy away from the conversation. But your wingman will say, hey, you know something? Mike here knows a lot about that. Mike, why don't you tell us about it? And then that's kind of like your introduction. So you come out and you say it. So you do that 3, 4, 5 times. I don't mean 3, 4, 5 times that night. I mean like 3, 4, 5 networking events. And by the fifth or sixth networking event, you're good to go solo.
Wow. So it's gaining confidence, and that
Confidence is number one.
number one.
That's number one. You have to be confident in yourself first and then in what you're selling. So before you go out to any networking event or especially a meeting, you have to really know what you're selling through and through. You have to know it backwards and forwards. Okay, so you're confident in what you're selling. Then you have to be confident in yourself. And confidence in yourself, introverts, extroverts, separate, right? But you can be very confident in yourself, be an introvert, but have a wingman.
Wow, what you just said, because a couple of Calvins ago, I just made this up. A couple of Calvins ago, I was a regional manager at Luxottica, and my one of my jobs was I had to get up Christmas time and the year-end meeting and give a speech in front of 400 people. So that was always a week before Christmas kind of thing, and by June already I had the agita that how am I going to do this? And so I went from that semi being self-taught. There was no Michael Forman in my life, and it was all trial and error and experimentation and the building of your own self-confidence over the years. So now, I've evolved into somebody who I think I can talk to anybody, and but you're right. I wrote confidence down. It's all confidence.
Yep. But there's a difference between talking to people and talking at people,
Ah,
right? So if you're talking to somebody, now you want them to feel comfortable, you want to feel comfortable, inject humor. In my presentations, I'm always injecting some sort of humor. I'm very self-deprecating. I'm always turning it towards myself, but it makes them laugh. And once you make them laugh, they feel more comfortable. Because in networking, there's a mantra. If they know you, if they like you, if they trust you, they'll do business with you, right? So if they know you, everybody knows you, right? You're a great guy. Do they like you? That kind of narrows it down just a little bit because not everybody's going to like you. But trust you, that's the factor that's going to make them buy from you. So if you inject a little humor, make them feel more comfortable, that wall between you is coming down and that trust level is going up. Once that starts to go up, then you're open to do business. But until that happens, you're not going to do business.
wow. Interesting, interesting, interesting. And you know what? Hey, I've taken 50 courses when I was at Luxottica, uh, literally 50 as a manager, and that's one of the things they required, and they wanted their associates and their managers to take courses, and probably 49 of them was not the real world, but what you're saying as I'm listening is the real world. This, for me, and I've read a million textbooks, this is the real world, and especially today, because we all, especially younger people, need that help. Um, I want to drift off topic completely. Part of my journalism thing and some of the stuff I learned from Barbara Walters, as a matter of fact. I liked a couple of fun questions here. I'm going to throw at you a couple answers. You can here goes. So, uh, Michael A. Forman, uh, excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend the day with. It could be one, two, three, whatever. There's no rules.
Well, I think I'd like to spend the day with a comedian like a Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, or a Tim Allen, Jerry Seinfeld, something like that, because they are people that, first of all, they're hysterical, but why are they hysterical? Because they train so hard within their craft that they work on it every hour of every day to make themselves better because the only person that you have to be better than is yourself yesterday. I stole that from the military, by the way. So that is just, but humor, I find humor to be uh, such a form that everybody can get behind.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I'm kind of there with you. I would have said Lenny Bruce because I have all his albums back there. When I was growing up, I didn't. He was there, and I was 17, and he was doing stuff in the city, and he was growing and becoming famous. And I never. I never went to see him. I didn't know anything about him until he died, and then they had a play in New York called Lenny, and Cliff Gorman starred in it, and I went to see it, and I said, "Oh my God, he's such a hero because he was free speech, and some of the things he said was funny until he got near the end of his career, and with all the lawsuits and the obscenity, all that stuff, it took a lot of his humor away. But he did so. But anyway, I love, 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 love comedy and comedians. It's my passion. And actually, I just interviewed an improv teacher. and he was literally last week, and um, he said, "Why don't you come to a class?" I said, "No, no, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. I'm not gonna subject myself to that." One other quick question: do you have any favorite movies?
Um, you know, I really don't have a favorite movie per se.
Okay,
I like different genres at different times of either the year or the way I'm feeling or something. Sometimes I like uh, a war movie, a Rocky movie, a Chuck Norris movie, or a Disney movie, or a have fun movie. If I'm with my wife, a romantic movie. So it really depends on who I'm with and what I'm feeling.
okay. I asked that only because my life changed uh, tremendously because I watched Casablanca once 20 years ago, and I decided to write a novel based on my watching Casablanca, and my whole life changed. But I always throw that question in. All right, back to work. Um, you've worked with corporate teams and entrepreneurs and students. Um, what's is there a common weakness with these entities across all these groups? Do they have a weakness, a common one, and how do you go about fixing that with all these teams and entrepreneurs and stuff?
Well, it's really simple. Everybody hires somebody. You hire somebody to sell your product, but you don't teach them how to network. You say, here's all the knowledge about my product. Go out and network. Go out and get me the business. So when I'm doing the workshops, when I'm doing the one-on-one coaching, I realize that nobody taught them how to properly network. And I do it right from the beginning, right from the eye contact on up through to the follow-up. So I break everything down into pieces, and each one of them, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that about that," or "Do you really have to do that?" Like when I say follow up, they say, "Well, I follow up with a phone call the day after I go there, and then a week later," or and I tell them, I say, "Look, all right, you and I just went to a client. How do you follow up?" Because, well, I send them an email the next day. Then, if they don't answer me, like within a week, I email them again or I call them or something. I said, okay, good, because you lost, I won. And they're very confused. I'm like, you need a system to put all that information in, and you need a system to follow up. And you need to do the same follow up every time without any problem. So if you go to a networking event, it's great if you get 5 contacts. But what happens if you go and you get 15 contacts the first time, 20 contacts the second time, 10 contacts the third? All of a sudden, you have 50 contacts. How are you going to follow up with them? The follow up is such a key factor. So before I can teach them the follow up, I teach them how to communicate with that person. And by teaching them, you start out with the eye contact, the body language, and everything else about them, talking to them, everything on through. So that's the problem.
Okay, I I keep writing. Second time I wrote follow up and how important that is. I've learned that in sales, and I'm listening to you and writing it down, and I realized my 25 years career in sales, which was a pretty successful career, there was so much, and I wasn't even aware of what I was doing, but I was following up because I had a great leader. When I become a billionaire, and follow up was something they always taught. And what you're saying now, Michael, is it's life. It's money in the bank. Follow up. It's by the way, here comes an off-topic thing. And we actually touched on this before we went on air when we were just BSing. Uh, uh, it's having taught at Rutgers for a semester. I taught there a semester. They wanted me to continue, and I declined. And they said, "How come you're declining?" I said, "Well, I had an epiphany. the epiphany was teaching is hard. I mean, it's hard, but I did have observations about this new generation that's coming up. The skills that you talk about, the skills that I picked up and I learned for 25 years, those kind of skills, and mainly we're here talking about networking, and networking um, is kind of missing.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that your observation about these kids coming out into this new world?
absolutely. Not only are they not being taught, but they don't care if they're being taught. You don't know what you don't know. They don't know how important it is to know about networking. And I tell them, look, well, I'm not in business. I haven't networked before. I said, wait a second, you network all the time. Do you go to a department store and shop? Do you go to a grocery store and shop? Do you hang out with your friends? All of that is networking. You're networking with other people. You're networking with your friends. You're networking all the time. All you have to do is take these same areas that you have to work on and apply it to your group of friends. Listen, don't try to overtalk when your friend is talking. Try listening to them. And then when they finish, pause and say something back to them about what they said, not the next thing that you want to talk about. You're like, well, I never thought about that. Well, of course you didn't. That's what I'm here for.
In your opinion, um, it's an interesting question. As I'm listening to you, I'm kind of putting this together. Of course, I don't know the answer, but um, in your opinion, uh, um, our academic institutions today are um, in one degree or another degree falling short of teaching this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I've been saying this for about 2 years now that the colleges, or at least on the high school level, should make a class about networking, about business, about I know that they have classes about business and economics and everything else. I took them. I know. But they didn't teach you how to apply all of it. That's something you had to learn afterwards when you went into business. I think they should make a class at the university level or even at the high school level and teach it.
brilliant. And again, I'm listening to you, and this stuff is just popping into my head. And again, from my limited as a semester teacher, a lecturer, I'm saying, and of course, I mentor kids now. You know, I mentor two full time. I mean, uh, uh, and it's funny. This month, it's just hit me. This month, you know, I get directions what to kind of concentrate on. This is so funny. And I just had a meeting with my mentee this morning before you. I cut it short because I had to get ready for you. But the for January, the area of concentration is networking and LinkedIn. And I laughed. I said, "Well, God, I'm going to be with Michael, you know, today." Uh, uh, and this is what they're saying. And then, how do I explain this? In looking, you know, you look at a like a big university, you know, with 50,000 students, and you know, billions of dollars budget, and my own frustrations in dealing with my own alma mater, the things that I'm doing, they're so unaware of, and I'm always throwing myself at their feet, saying I can do stuff for you guys. You know, I'm out there. I meet a million people. I'm a networker. I could be doing stuff, but you're dealing with an entity that's it's big, and it used to be an old, you know, our government works. It moves slowly, but at least it works. And the same thing with a college, you know, it works and they are teaching, but how responsive they are to such dramatic changes, meaning AI and the need for what you do, networking.
It's Uh, okay. It's when you mentor somebody. I mentor five people now. That's not including who I coach and who I everything else. When they ask me about LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the most powerful business tool social media can offer. So, what they should do when they want to make a connection, they make a connection, the other person accepts. Don't immediately try to sell something, try to say how, what, right? They have to bring value to the conversation. So, uh, let's say you're a roofing company. You're the CEO of a roofing company, and I'm very interested in finding out what you can tell me about the roofing industry. Get an article, asphalt roofs versus metal roofs article, and attach it and say, here, I was thinking of you. Why don't you do this? Why don't you read this? Okay, so you read it. So then you try to bring something else of value. And then just say, you know something, I've been following what you do. Would you have 15 minutes so I can pick your brain? Because they would love to do it. I've had this happen a few times where somebody has contacted me through LinkedIn and I've been on the phone with them for an hour, but I'll be more than happy to. And everybody else will be more than happy to help them. If you're close enough in proximity, say, you know something, can I buy you lunch? Because I'd love to pick your brain. It costs you a little bit, but hey, with the amount of information you would get, it's second to none.
Yeah. And the bonding. By the way, what you said is so brilliant. It's so brilliant. You have a new connection. I've got 15,000 of them, and I couldn't practice a lot of all the techniques. It's impractical of you talking about. But there have been occasions when if you, and it's funny, when I was in sales, because I worked for a billionaire and he taught me a lot of good things. And I was in sales before they had this thing called the internet. So you had to rely on 4 by 6 index cards. There was no Google, but I would write down on the business cards little idiosyncratic little things that I learned about the account. So let's say, they went to the University of Rhode Island, and I happened to run into an article about Rhode Island. They're doing something great. I would get that article and mail them a copy. There's no email. The things that I had to suffer through, no email. But point being, just sending, quote, that article about Rhode Island, gee, I was thinking about you. What a bonding, what an everlasting bonding thing that when he or she got that article about Rhode Island and Calvin sent that to me, that the next time I come in there and I said, I got that article, thanks. Oh, let me give you a really good order today. So I mean, what you're saying it's just so elemental and key that's just not practiced. And we're all human, and those qualities and those endearing things, they're there and they're wanting to be used, but they're not. Interesting stuff. Um, in all in the book and stuff, and the workshops and the stuff that you do, you emphasize, and we kind of touched on this, that networking really is networking is life. It's a long-term strategy. You've said that. It's not one and done kind of deal. Uh, what would you say? How are some of the techniques that you build a long-term network?
Well, let's go. I'm bringing it back to the networking event. Okay, when you just met somebody, and you went through everything, and you got to the point where you exchanged business cards. So you exchange the business card, but what do you do with that business card? You turn the card over, you write down the date, the name of the function, and something you spoke about. That's because when you get back, I'm going to give you my follow up. Okay. This is the proper follow up technique that has always worked for me. You get back home or to the office and you immediately write a thank you email. Hey, Calvin, this is Michael. I want to thank you very much for your time tonight. I thought it was great. Hope to do business with you soon, Michael. That's it. Thank you. That's it. The next morning, you write a handwritten thank you note. Handwritten, saying the same thing. Calvin, this is Michael. I met you on such and such date at such an event. We spoke about XYZ. That's where the information from the back of the card comes in. I'm hoping to do business with you soon. Hope everything is all right. Michael, put your business card in it, mail it away. 3 days later, if you haven't answered me yet, anyway. Hey, Calvin, this is Michael. I met you on such and such date at such an event. We spoke about XYZ. I put those three things before every time I make contact with you because that will keep me top of mind. Hey, Calvin, this is Michael. I met you on such and such date at such an event. We spoke about XYZ. Listen, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week really seem to be open. How's Tuesday? Michael. I wait for a response. No response. Hey, I wait 3 days. Hey, Calvin, this is Michael. I met you on such and such date at such an event. We spoke about XYZ. I said Tuesday and Wednesday of next week were kind of open. Tuesday kind of filled up. How's Wednesday? Michael.
Mm.
Wait another 3 days. Hey, Calvin, this is Michael. I met you on such such date at such an event. We spoke about XYZ. Listen, I told you Tuesday and Wednesday were kind of open. They're kind of filled up now. Do you have a date when we can meet? Because if you haven't, first of all, a corporate email has about a 2% chance of somebody replying to it.
Mm.
By the end of this series of follow up, I've now upped it to about 70%.
Wow.
So you have
Wow.
about a 70% chance of getting a response rate. Listen, whether it's a positive or negative, that doesn't matter as long as it's a response. Now,
Wow.
if it's negative, you cross them off your list. If it's positive, then you move on to your next, how you meet them and everything else. Listen, but if they still don't answer you, you don't just throw it away. You take their information, put all the points of contact into your CRM, and you put in what's called a drip campaign. Once a month, you email them until they say, don't email me, or okay, let's meet. But you're staying every month.
Such practical stuff. You know, it's just
And
such
really easy to
practical.
do.
It's so easy to do. It's so easy to do. I mean, slightly off topic. I saw an address. I mean, the power of the old-fashioned mail. What you're talking about. I saw an address a couple years ago. Go ahead.
That thank you note. Could you imagine being the person when you get this thing in the mail, the thank you note in the mail? It's not an invoice, it's not a bill, it's not anything else, but it's a thank you note. And you open it up. Listen, for all of my students, and every time I've sent out these thank you notes, I have a stack of thank you notes, an arm high on the side of my desk. One time, back when I was in the mortgage business, I sent the thank you. This was like 15 years ago. I've been doing that's how long I've been doing it, by the way. I sent a thank you note and I received a thank you note for my thank you note because it wasn't done.
Because it's not done, and this is some of the stuff that should be taught, which is a million miles away. Which is a good segue to my next question. With all this stuff going on, and I really concentrate a lot of my thought and my thinking to the young people, the folks who are going to inherit the earth, and what's left of it, actually. So technology and AI are just, I mean, AI is changing everything 15 minutes for sure, and we don't even have the slightest comprehension of what it's going to look like. Um, uh, do you see that there's going to be any kind of a balance between, the technology, AI, and some of the old-fashioned stuff that you're talking about? This will there be some kind of a balance, a workable, living, breathing balance between this stuff?
Every
Meaning,
time
your stuff is so needed, it's going to be there.
my stuff's always going to be there. It's always needed. It's always going to be there. Whenever something new comes in, I'm bringing it back to the advent of the Macintosh computer. When the Macintosh computer, I was working at Apple then, by the way, um, first came in, all the managers and owners were saying, "Oh, you know something? I don't need graphic design studios anymore. I'll have my secretary design everything that I need." And then he realized, like, okay, she doesn't have the sense, so I do need the graphic designers. But there was a 6 month period where they didn't need it, right? So that's where they went all the way to one side and it came back a little. The AI is the same way. The AI, everybody wants to use it. They don't exactly know how to use it, but they want to use it. And what I'm saying is AI is fantastic as a tool. Keep it in your tool belt. So when you have to use it, you have it. But if you want to use something else, you use it in conjunction with other things. And it'll always be in that you can use it. So if you use it correctly, you can use it. I write an article 3 times a week online about AI and networking.
Mm.
And it's really it's exactly that. I use it as a tool, and I write about everything when it comes down to networking or AI. But you know what? You get just as much when you go to a networking event as when you use an AI tool. So it's just a piece of the puzzle.
Um, there is no there is no end to this chat that we're on, and so forthwith herewith, inviting you to come back. We talked before we went on air, put together some people and chat. There's there is no ending to this. And even though I'll ask you one more question for now, and of course I'm gonna officially invite you to come back because this is this is life. I mean, this is life, and never before has it been so important. We talked about networking for the last 15 years, but not ever so important as it is today because it's going to help you survive and live lives that we lived and nice lives that we've lived. Um, so for somebody who's living and living, of course, if somebody's watching this right now, and they want to make more money with better relationship and all that stuff, it's all about, hey, it's a lot of it's about making more money, and stuff. So somebody listening, I hope young people are listening, and I'm gonna make sure my little rector's little group listens. But if they're listening and want to make more money, what's some of the first things they got to change, like in the next 24 hours?
Their mindset. Okay. Go into networking with a servant's heart. Go in thinking, what can I do for somebody else and not expect anything in return? Okay, so if you're looking to, oh, you're looking for an article, I'll help you find the article. You're looking for a mechanic, I'll help you find a mechanic. You're looking for two people to be able to put two people together because I'm known as a connector, a super connector in my area. I take two people and I put them together. This person needs a plumber. This is a plumber. I put you together and I back away. I'm going to stay completely out of it, right? But I put you together and they both are doing business or helping or whatever. So all I can say is go in with a servant's heart, go in trying to look to help somebody. And believe me, as I'm sitting here now, it will come back around to you.
Perfect. Perfect. That's just a nice way to wrap this. And I am, and we talked about it. I'd love you to come back and talk, and a couple other people floating around out there. We could put together some really meaningful. And I gear so much of what I'm doing to young people because my relationship with my university and young people, and my journey, and I've always done really well with Gen Zs and Gen Xs and stuff. And I did teach a couple of years ago. So I would love you to come back. We'll talk about that. And quoting one of my, I'm an old movie guy, an old movie, Michael, 70s, Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, when I'm kind of paraphrasing here when he says, make my day, you made my day.
Thank you.
Yes, you
Thank you
did.
very much.
Yeah, and again, just to tell folks, this is just brilliant stuff. It's life. And by the way, it's half hour of underlining and absorbing, but it's so and I'm really grateful that we kind of connected because it's so important. So please do come back. Thank you, Michael. Happy healthy New Year. And this folks will be seeing it's January 12th. We just jumped into the future. Hey, we went back to the future. Thank you,
Yes.
Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Don't leave. I'm just going to stop recording. Don't leave yet.